So when I was 15 years old, my father took me to see The Color Purple because it was really the only black Broadway show that was out besides The Lion King.
Yeah.
And and he took me to see it and in 2005, and I was mesmerized because I, for the first time, saw people that looked like me. Yeah. The whole cast was black and living in who they are, and so it was just a moment for me, and it gave me this path. I was able to see so clearly, like, I can do this. Like, because I come from a very small town, Simpsonville, South Carolina. Shout out South Carolina, what's up? But yeah, so getting to Hollywood and I didn't know how to do that. And I saw, there's a way. And so I ended up going to Juilliard, studying there. And 10 years later, y'all, I was 25. After hearing so many no's in this industry, I got my first yes being on Broadway, starring in The Color Purple. I make no mistakes.
I think that it's going to sound strange, but I think that actually like one of the best things that ever happened to me was to not have any kind of early success. When I first started auditioning, I auditioned for 2 years without ever getting a job. And 2 years, it's a lot of auditions. It's a lot of being told no. And that's hard to take, but I think that the longer that you want something and don't get it, but are able to withstand that kind of rejection and still say that this is what you want to do, the stronger that it makes you, and the more able you are to weather the inevitable ups and downs, which really is just the life of an actor, because there is no consistency and there is no security at any time. You're always thinking, where is my next job? Where is it going to come from? What am I going to do? I never feel like any movie that I've made is more important than another movie. They're all sort of equal, even the bad ones, really. Like, that's another kind of interesting lesson to learn along the way, that the things that I've done that haven't turned out well are just as important as the things that I've done that have turned out well, because they are they're equally instructive teachers. When I first read something, I never know exactly why I'm attracted to something. I just know that I am. It's kind of like when you meet somebody and you don't really know anything about them yet, but your heart just kind of like goes to them and you realize like, oh, I sort of have a crush on this person. That's kind of how I feel like about parts that I play or movies that I make. Like, I don't know exactly why I'm drawn to something at first, and then I start a kind of process of trying to figure that out. But to begin with, I don't know why something moves me or doesn't move me. It's just that my heart goes to it or it doesn't. Acting is really lonely when you just think about it as yourself, but if you think about it as being in the scene with someone, it's really fulfilling. And really being open to another person, like really allowing yourself to take in what they're saying and to be affected by what the infinitesimal changes and like their choices in a scene, to really listen, like to not be afraid to show them things, to not be afraid to bring them ideas, to not be embarrassed, to not be shy, and to risk embarrassment, because like what's the worst thing that can happen? Like, you have a bad idea and you share it with somebody, like you're not going to die from that, and chances are it might be whittled into something that like then is a good idea. So if anything that I've learned, if there's anything that I've really learned or anything that I would want like somebody else to not have to learn the hard way, it's to just like raise your hand and like use your voice and shout out your opinion and like let come what may.
I'm just tired of working so hard, being gracious at what I do, getting paid a fraction of the cost. Mm-hmm. I'm tired of hearing my sisters say the same thing over and over. You get tired. Mm-hmm. I hear people go, you work a lot. Yeah. Or have to. The math ain't mathing. Mm-hmm. And when you start working a lot, you have a team. Big bills come with what we do. We don't do this alone. The fact that we're up, here's a whole entire team behind us. Yes. They have to get paid. So when you hear someone saying, oh, such and such made $10 million, no, that's not, that didn't make it to their account. Know that off the top, Uncle Sam is getting 50%.
That's right.
Okay, so do the math. Now we have 5 million. Your team is getting 30% or whatever your team is off of what you grossed,
Sometimes
not
more.
after what Uncle Sam took. Now do the math. So
You're tired.
I'm only human, and it seems every time I do something and I break another glass ceiling, when it's time to renegotiate, I'm at the bottom again, like I never did what I just did, and I'm just tired. I'm tired. I'm tired. It wears on you, you know? Because what does that mean? What is that telling me?
What is it telling me? Yeah. And what does it tell me? Yeah.
You know? And if I can't fight for them coming up behind me, then what the fuck am I doing? I'm sorry. And then they tell me we don't translate overseas. Tired of hearing that my entire career, 20 plus years in the game, and I hear the same thing, and I see what you do for another production, and when it's time for us to go to bed, you don't have any money. They play in your face. And I'm just supposed to smile and grin and bear it and just keep like, enough is enough. That's why I have other things. I have my TPH brand. I have my mental wellness. I have other things, because this industry, if you let it, it'll steal your soul. But I refuse to let that happen.
Yes.
We are all here for a short, sacred time, and what are we doing if not the thing that we feel like we're meant to be doing? There's another thing, which is mentorship for the thing we are terrified of continuing to do, or of picking back up, or the calling that won't stop calling and knocking on our door even though we ignore it and we become accountants. Nothing wrong with accountants. My father was an accountant. But then he discovered later in life that he was meant to be a swimming coach, and now he's a swimming coach. But he had to go bankrupt in order to figure out that he had to be a swimming coach. But he got there, and the calling keeps calling. And Sondheim has 2 legacies. Sondheim has the legacy of all of his music and all of his work, and he has this other legacy of mentorship and of being that father figure, that parental figure for young artists to explore and express their uniqueness, their particular woundedness, their particular giftedness. And Lin-Manuel is another person that is working on those 2 legacies, and I am also a person that wants to work on both of those legacies, because I know how much I needed mentorship as a young high schooler who was totally lost, who got concussed 3 times playing rugby and then realized I wasn't going to be an athlete, wasn't academic, could apply myself but didn't really care, and then felt so fucking lost because the arts were not encouraged in my neck of the woods. It was, you were either a doctor or a lawyer or a business person, or a waste of time. That was the subliminal message I got, and it felt like it was in the Truman Show, and I felt like I felt like there has to be something else. And actually, if there's not something else, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, I don't know what I am doing in this world. And I felt that as a teenager. Like, I was an emo teenager. and then it was my mother who encouraged me towards the arts. She had the courage to send me into a life of poverty, potentially. just because she couldn't handle me being unhappy. And I explored painting, and I explored sculpture, and I explored music, and I loved it all, but it didn't light me up in the way. And the last thing I tried was theater, and it was through a teacher called Mr. Tong, Philip Tong, and he introduced me to Shakespeare and to Arthur Miller and to Tennessee Williams and their work. And suddenly I started to feel like I was at the end of the Truman Show, feeling the wall, and I found the open door, and I was like, there was a black hole. I was like, I've got to walk through. And it was only through, being exposed and mentored by someone who could see me deeply did I get the opportunity to be sat here right now talking to you about something that I am so, so proud of, that I hope it provides, mentorship and reassurance and encouragement and terror and inspiration for you all to do what you're meant to do in your lives. So there we are.
When you work with a mask or external things, in this case, obviously a heavy makeup job and some body prosthetics, it changes how you feel, it changes how you look. You don't recognize yourself, you don't move the same way. And that's beautiful because it opens the door to pretending. It opens the door to being another person or imagining a different way of moving, living, being. And that's a gift because it doesn't come from, plotting it out. It's a very natural thing, organic. It's when the world is so complete, it really tells you what to do, because it's specific and it doesn't remind you of anything, so you have kind of fresh impulses. I've auditioned very little because I was very lucky because I was a theater actor and people saw me at the theater, and I started, and it was an avant-garde theater. It wasn't a commercial theater. So and that was my identity. I was a downtown guy, and sure, I auditioned. For example, I put myself on tape for Spider-Man, so I did some of that, but not so much, because normally I was at the theater and people would come to see me, or after some movies, you can say, look at the movies. So I didn't do so much auditioning, not like a lot of people have. So I was fortunate. But the only thing I'd say is, and I experienced this because I've been involved in the casting. I've been on the other side of the casting, not as a director, but as an actor with the director looking at other actors. Just remember that the second I think you know this, but the second you walk in the door, they figure things out in about 3 seconds. And so the best thing is the most important thing, and maybe the most important thing about performing, is just be present and don't feel like you have to produce anything. Be there the best you can. It's not just a case of over-promising and, underselling and all that. It's really, for me, and I think for a lot of people in that casting process, that when they're on the other side, if you feel too much need, it repels you, because you want someone to get there that you feel like can take it, can take it. And if they don't know where they're going or they're lost, they're not going to freak out, and you can work with them. But if you feel like someone that needs too much, or they're too much in your face, some people like that, I guess, but that you're like, I don't know. Also because it seems egotistical. It's like, look at me, look at me, look at me. And you got to take the edge off of that and just walk in and try to be with the people and connect, in the most basic, I'm saying really obvious things. I tried.
Who auditioned?
And walked out and then couldn't see anything. It was all dark. And then this figure started to descend. I remember like it was yesterday.
So do I.
I really do. I remember we did the scene, and then he descended again. And I remember what you said. You said, "Are you prepared to spend the next 3 years of your life dedicated to this program?" And I said, "Yeah." And then that was it. That was all he said. And then for the next, until I found out that I got in, we deconstructed that sentence. What do you think that meant? That meant I'm in, right? Okay. He said, "Am I prepared?" Meaning, like, he doesn't think I am prepared, so I'm not.
Want to know what it meant?
Yeah.
I never said it unless the person was that good. Who was your basic technique teacher?
I'm a really loud crier too. I'm not like a sobber. I'm like it's ugly, so I apologize. I can't talk with tears. It's gonna be like hyperventilating. I was thinking about this today, and the thing that I wanted to say was, that I was never able to relax in my life before her.
I
I was just wondering, when was the moment that you had that breakthrough where you could reach that relaxation that had you on this stage still so broken up?
I have a memory of it being in her class and getting to a point where I felt like I was in a state of pure expression, and her putting her hand on my back, and feeling like, oh wow, I've crossed over and into this sort of place where I'm just sort of reacting rather than trying to manipulate, which is tricky because then you're like, well, I got to go there the next time, and you try to repeat it, and she's, she can always tell, she can always tell right away, like, easy. Everybody needs to hear themselves too. Take it easy with the crying and the yelling.
And do you find yourself getting to that place quicker now, like now that you've been using it constantly, in the field?
Absolutely, only because I get to work so much. The more I work, the more I'm dogmatic about being authentic in myself, like making sure that I'm not acting or trying not to act, and working with people that demand that of me keeps you sharp.
Walk our students through your process. Do you ever create a backstory for your character?
It's essential. You have to know where you're coming from.
How much do you leave open for accident and inspiration?
I pray for it.
You do?
Oh, absolutely. God, I hope that's what all the preparation's for. I just sort of pursue what it is I like, and I think that means challenge myself, because I want to work with great actors. I just want to get better. That's basically what it is. I really want to just keep getting better and better and better and better, and work harder and learn and just get to, just constantly. That's what I mean. There's literally no difference in my mindset from when I was a student. Zero. But one thing I've realized in having this, whatever success I've had, is that, wasting time thinking that that's going to solve any problems there's no difference. There's literally no difference. And the joy that I get from doing it now, as opposed to the joy that I got doing hurly-burly in school, is no different. There's no different. So I always try to remind myself that, God, make sure that I know that that's really what I want to do, because I'll never be, because if I'm not paid to act anymore, I hope I still believe that about what the work does for me. Because I know that the money or the fact that that the more people know who I am, doesn't do anything, doesn't give you anything, zero. If anything, it's something you have to sort of grapple with and then come to terms with. But the only thing that really matters is the joy of picking up a cup in a scene and doing it authentically.